Ever want to go under the hood of someone's Instagram growth strategy to understand what's working for them and what can you adapt for your business? Jump on in, because in this video, I'm going to take you through my insights and I'm going to reveal my entire Instagram growth plan for this year that you are totally free to steal for yourself. First things first, whenever you're creating a plan, you gotta first look at the data of your history, because that's gonna determine where you should go next. So I've pulled up my Instagram insights. I'm looking at the last 30 days and let's analyze what's worked and what we should keep doing. So let's look at the content I shared. So right away, I'm seeing a quick overview of my top performing posts of the last 30 days. So the very first one is a carousel post, and I'm taken right into my insights so I can see how many accounts I reached with it, how many were followers, non-followers, all that great stuff. The second type of content was a reel where I was reporting on some news using the green screen effect. So that reached a lot of people. The third type of post is another carousel post. Okay, so we reached almost 20,000 people and quite a few non-followers. So that's interesting. That post was tips for showing up on camera. This one, I think my community just liked. It was a look at the type of reels we've made over the years since 2020. Then we have another carousel post. I'm sensing a theme. This was again reporting on news in my industry, but instead I used the carousel format. And then the last of my top posts is a reel that did okay. 3 of my top 6 posts were carousel posts, so I'm taking note of that. Now back here on my insights homepage, I see that I posted 61 stories over those 30 days. So let's tap into the stories aspect and look at which of our stories did the best. So this story was simply a reel that I posted to my stories, but it reached almost 5,000 people, which is really cool. And this story was me talking about my skin breaking out due to me adding retinol to my skincare routine. And I had the craziest breakout of my life. I couldn't ignore it. So I talked about it. So what I'm gathering from my stories is that a mix of business and a mix of personal does really well. But there's something else about my stories that's really, really key here that I'm going to share with you in just a bit. Okay, so now we have a good overview of what type of content worked to reach more accounts. We have some work to do with engaging with more accounts and also growing my followers. So I've got some ideas based on my top performing content. Now that I've analyzed through my insights what's worked for me for the last 30 days, let's dig into my actual posts that did really well for me. So the first post that comes to mind, this one right here. This is a carousel post. This is a trend that was on TikTok and then on Instagram. But the cool thing about this post is the format. It is a carousel post using photos from my camera roll, nothing fancy, no brand images, and then I'm sharing text on top. Now, because I thought that this might have been a one-off success, I used the same format to share tips for showing up on camera. So this was a bit more on the educational side, but I used this sliding format with photos and text on top. Now, here's my secret for this type of post, because I am definitely going to be creating more of these because they're performing so well. My secret is I didn't create these in Instagram. I created all of these in TikTok. Super easy, and let me show you how to do this. Here I am in TikTok. I'm gonna hit the plus button in the bottom and I'm gonna make sure that it's set to photo, okay? So photo is a setting that you want. Then I'm gonna go to upload and I'm going to choose the photos that I'd like to, first of all, give TikTok access to, which I've done here. So I'm just gonna choose a collection of photos that I've uploaded to TikTok or I've given TikTok access to. There you go. So there's 4 photos. Then I'm gonna hit next. And now it's really easy to add text on top. So you can see that TikTok starts scrolling through the photos for me. I can see that they're different sizes. That's okay. My first step is to go to the AA in the upper right, and this is where I'm going to add my text. And then if I hit the A with the square around it, I can add an outline, I can add a background. And then if I hit just the plain A, this is where I can choose my font. I tend to use the oblique one. I think it stands out okay. And then I'm going to hit done. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure I'm not covering these elements right there and make it super clear and bold. Now I'm just going to swipe to the right and add my next tip. And we'll go to the last one here. All right, so again, this is just a demo, but this is our title slide. This is what people are going to see on the image of a carousel post. Here's a tip, here's a tip, here's a tip. Now, over on the right-hand menu, you can see that there's a downward arrow. Hit that downward arrow and you should see that save button. This save button is gold. So hit save. And what's gonna happen is all of these images are now saved to my camera roll. I can go ahead and hit next and then save this to a draft. Now, the cool thing is if you forget to save this and you do post it to your profile, you can go back to your post that's published, hit the 3 dots, and then tap save photo. So you can select all the ones that you wanna save, and then those are gonna save to your camera roll as well. So here on my camera roll are the 4 that I just created, and then the ones that are saved from my TikTok profile have my TikTok handle in the bottom right corner. So that's something to keep in mind. Not a bad thing, especially if your TikTok handle is the same as your Instagram handle. Now, the next part of my Instagram strategy involves what I hinted at when I was looking at my insights, and that is my stories. But there's something very specific about my stories that I notice just completely boosts my views. So if I go to the hamburger icon in the upper right and then tap archive, I can show you what I noticed. This is my story from March 6th. If I look at the activity underneath it, I can see that it reached 2,200 people. That's pretty good for my account. Here's my story from March 13th. If I look at the activity, this reached 2,700 people. And then if we go to my story on March 25th, if I look at the activity, that story reached 2,300 people. The key here that I'm noticing with all these stories, all previous stories before I posted this one had expired. So that means there were no stories under my profile to look at until I posted these 3 that I just showed you. So what I find is that when I let my stories totally expire, and then when I post something new like this one, my reach and my viewership goes way up. So what I'm saying here is you really only need to post 1 story every 24 hours. That's what I'm seeing work really well for my account. In fact, I can see right here that I need to post a story. There's nothing there for people to view because my prior stories already expired. So let's post one right now and I'll check back in 24 hours and see how it did. Now, in a previous video on how to sell on Instagram without a website, I did show you my strategy for posting 3 stories, but in this case, time's of the essence. I'm just gonna post 1 and I'll see how it does in the next 24 hours. All right, I made my story and I decided to lead viewers to my private broadcast channel. And I shared a little insight into what's been going on behind the scenes with my business, but I'm also teasing the fact that those in my channel will be the first to find out about these changes. So this is it. This is the 1 story I'm gonna post for the next 24 hours. So let's hit your stories, and now it's up. I'll check back in 24 hours. Okay, it's the moment of truth. It's been 24 hours since my story got posted. It just expired, but luckily in Stories Archive, I can pull it up and see that it got over 2,000 views. That is way higher than my average story views. If we go back to prior views, this story right here got 550 views. This story right here got 500 views. So by posting just 1 story after having let my previous stories expire, I was able to 4x the typical views that I get. And the other thing to note was this story was kind of promotional. I was promoting my Inner Circle channel. So it's not like I was sharing a personal update. It was a business related update, but it still got over 2,000 views. So goes to show that my audience likes business updates as well as personal updates. So that's good for me to know. The next part of my Instagram strategy involves Reels. Of course, they are still a huge part of my strategy, but I've really come to see that 3 types of Reels do the best for my feed. I've done a ton of experimentation. I just went through a launch period. I was trying out more humor-based Reels, but it really boils down to these 3 types of Reels that do the best for my account. The first type of Reel is tips, just sharing relevant, need-to-know information for my audience. So an example of this would be this Reel right here, where I shared the news that Reels can now be 3 minutes long, and my audience appreciated that. Another example of a tip-based Reel is this news about a potential ban on TikTok. Here's another example where I shared the software that I use in my business, just pure tips and information. People love it. The second type of Reel that I've dabbled in a little bit, but I've never done consistently, is sharing trends, whether they are trends on TikTok or Reels. But I started to experiment with it, just like this Reel right here, and people really enjoyed being informed. But not only that, if they read the caption, they actually get a ton of ideas for their niche. And so this Reel did better than I expected. So I'm definitely going to keep sharing more trends with my audience as they come up. The third type of reel that works really great for me is just pure inspiration and thought leadership. So when I scroll down and I see the type of engagement I got on this post right here, all the ways that I get help running a 7-figure business as a mom, people really enjoyed the insight and the transparency. This reel is another example of how I can inspire and motivate my followers. I recognize that my followers were feeling a little down about their engagement being all over the place. I felt it too. So I put these reminders together for myself, shared them with my audience, and people really resonated with that. So that's it. Those are the type of reels that I'm going to make consistently. Tips, trends, and inspiration. We've covered carousels from TikTok, my story strategy, now my reel strategy. The next part of my Instagram growth strategy is Threads. Yes, I'm bringing Threads back. Threads has actually become a really fun place for me to hang out and share my unfiltered thoughts. And honestly, it's easier and easier to jump into Threads because when I look at my profile, I can see that A icon in the upper right with a notification symbol. So whenever I tap that, I'm led right into the notifications of my Threads account. And oftentimes my Threads are just a text-based version of what I'm sharing on my Instagram feed. So this top post that you see right here that has 160 likes, it's just a repeat of what I shared over in this post right here. It's literally the same text. So in a way, I just have to train myself that if I'm putting together some thoughts for a reel or for a caption, post them over to Threads. It's a different format. It's a different way that people are taking in information. And I'm showing up differently here as well. That's why I'm really enjoying it. If you scroll down, you can see that here I'm sharing more personal information, like the retinal purge that I went through, some YouTube videos that make me cry. This topic really got a ton of people talking and giving me advice. Even though it has nothing to do with my business, doesn't matter. I'm still connecting with the almost 30,000 followers who are there on Threads, and most of them came over from my Instagram profile. So it's just another way for me to share my less filtered, more me, less Elise Dharma the brand type of thoughts and connect with people just human to human. Now, pro tip when it comes to Threads, if you have a thread that takes off or you want to share it to your Instagram, just hit the paper airplane button. That's the share button. And then you can hit story. So it's automatically going to create a story that you can share. Hit the paper airplane icon and then hit feed. And what's going to happen is your post from Threads is going to be turned into a post that if you hit next, you can actually share it to your feed. Or what I like to do is you can take a screenshot of it and you can crop out everything around it and use it in a carousel post or use it in a TikTok, whatever the case may be. But this is a cool way that you can share your thoughts across multiple platforms. The next part of my Instagram strategy is one that I've used for years, but I am doubling down on it this year because it is more powerful than ever. And you've probably seen this strategy before because it's working so well for business owners. And the strategy is DM automation. So oftentimes when you see posts that say, comment keyword and I'll DM you the link, they're usually using DM automation. And that's a software that you connect your Instagram account so that when someone comments that keyword, the software will automatically kick in and send them a DM based on the information you gave them. So here's an example. So let me scroll down to my feed where I started enrolling people into my latest bootcamp. So here's a video that has 332 likes, but it has 272 comments. So let's look at some of those comments. Most of these comments are people using my keyword, which is ROF. And then the reply back, I didn't manually reply back with this at all. This was all programmed inside of my DM automation tool called ManyChat. So this is how people are getting hundreds, if not thousands of comments from reels that maybe aren't doing amazing with their views, but the comments are really amazing. So this is 120 comments right here. This is 59 comments. This is 135 comments. This was an experiment, 13 comments. I'm always about experimenting. Here's another one with 152 comments. So I've done a ton of experimenting to see what gets people intrigued enough to comment so that my DM automation fires off. And what you're getting in this video is a summary of all my experimentation and what's worked the best for me. I have dug so much deeper into DM automation, which has turned out to be my favorite marketing strategy of this year. So if you're curious, if you want to learn more, go ahead and watch this video next. You'll also find a $50 coupon code for my course on DM automation.